Universal currency receipt, architect musician 3611027, Devalan Ahll.
I'm about to give you something that feels like it's breathing in your ear and pulling at your rib cage. This is not just a story. This is one of those records. The Watcher Who Tore the Prism, a true esoteric account retrieved from the seventh vault of the Hollow Names. They called him Kael Morra, but the stars knew his first name was the Pulse Between Worlds, one of the 72 melanated Watchers, colossal beings forged before the measure of time, who carried in their marrow the frequencies that kept the cosmic order intact. Kael Morra was carved from obsidian light and crowned in braids of black gold flame. His eyes, impossible to name, were the colour of the first dawn after 1,000 years of shadow. He was sworn to the great vow, never to descend fully into the prison of matter, until she was taken. Her name was Seria of the Luminous Veins. She was not mortal. She was the keeper of the song thread, the one who wove sound into form. With her voice, mountains could hum, oceans could open, and the souls of the dead could find their way home. She was Kael Morra's equal, not in power, but in resonance. Without her, his heartbeat would stutter. But the Prism Earth was already here. It wasn't a planet. It was a construct, a shimmering lattice of frequencies designed to refract spirit into fragments. Souls entered whole, but the prism split them into lifetimes, into forgetfulness, into repetition. Each facet of the prism was a timeline, each edge a karmic loop, no one left without erasure. The architect of the prism, Voroth the Quiet Hand, took Seria in the midst of the Age of First Sons. She was bound into the prism's core, her song thread twisted into the heartbeat of the trap itself. If she ever sang again, the prism would shatter. So Voroth made sure she forgot her own name. Kael Morra heard the silence in the music of the spheres and knew. To descend into the prism meant the Watcher's chains would close on him too. But love is the one commandment the high stars cannot overrule. He fell. The moment his feet touched the crust of the prism earth, the skies folded. His arrival was not subtle. Storms in the shape of lions' heads, rivers reversing, children waking from lifetimes of amnesia screaming his name. But the prism fought back. Kael Morra's powers fractured. Every time he moved towards Seria's hidden incarnation, reality threw up another lifetime between them. Sometimes she was born in the wrong century. Sometimes he'd die before he reached her. Sometimes she didn't remember him at all. And their meeting would be nothing more than a strange ache in the chest before she walked away. But Kael Morra learned the hidden seams of the prism. He became a force within it. A storm disguised as a man. Tall, skin like deep burnished mahogany under molten sun, his hair locked and streaked with the memory of the black gold fire from before his descent. He carried no weapon. His weapon was recognition. When he looked into her eyes, he could rethread the fragments of her soul in an instant, and in every lifetime, no matter how far, she would feel it. His greatest breakthrough came in the Age of Steel and Signal. He found her, this time as Amara J, a poet who wrote in her sleep in languages she didn't know. She lived in a city of glass towers, her laughter just enough to make the prism walls hum. But Voroth was still watching. The moment Kael Morra touched her hand, Amara fell into trance. Her mouth moved, and for the first time in aeons, the song thread stirred. It was small, a note only the oldest animals could hear, but it cracked one facet of the prism. A sliver of true light poured in. Voroth unleashed the hounds of stillness, entities that erase moments from existence, to stop them. The streets bent. Time stuttered. Kael Morra fought them not with fists, but with memory. He made her remember their vows under the twin suns, their laughter between the pillars of the unnamed city, the way her voice once made the constellations change shape. That memory became a roar inside her. She sang. The prism split. Not fully. Not yet. But enough for some of the trap to see the way out. They fled into the cracks, reborn in realms where no chains could follow. Kael Morra and Seria, still within the prism, now moved together, lifetime to lifetime, cracking it piece by piece. The other Watchers whisper that when the prism finally shatters, the architects will fall. The lovers will be whole again, and the force of their reunion will undo the very idea of captivity. The prism is not myth. In ancient mystery schools, it was called the Great Refractor. Watchers are those who guard the edges of reality's spectrum. The reunion of Kelmora and Saria represents the integration of the fractured soul, the masculine force of conscious will meeting the feminine thread of creation. Every time you remember who you are, even for a second, you help crack the prism. Part 2 is where the romance turns into an all-out esoteric street war with stakes so high, whole constellations lean in to watch. The Prism Breakers, Part 2. The Siege of the 13th Facet. It had been lifetimes since Kelmora and Saria first cracked the prism. They'd grown skilled at the art of slipping past the Architect's control, moving like ghosts between timelines, planting rebellion in the dreams of the trapped. But in this lifetime, they woke together. The year was not one you'd recognize. It was 13672, the prism's inner calendar, a time where skyscrapers grew like forests and the oceans glowed with stolen starlight. Kelmora was reborn as Darren Cole, a music producer whose beats carried subliminal frequencies that disrupted the prism's harmonic cage. Saria came as Lyra Anwin, a revolutionary street poet whose words could make riots bloom in the dead of night. The Architects, now a council of shadowed beings called the Silence Bureau, considered this their worst-case scenario. They'd kept the lovers apart for so long that both waking in the same time was a breach in the game's code. The meeting. It happened in an underground club lit with amber and indigo, where the bass was so heavy you felt it in your bones before you heard it in your ears. Darren was at the decks, his locks tied back, his eyes scanning the crowd for a frequency spike he could feel but not yet see. Lyra was in the corner, hood up, pen scratching in her notebook like she was translating lightning. When their eyes met, the prism stuttered. Lights flickered. Time, an obedient servant of the Bureau, hesitated. And then her song thread lit up like it had been waiting for this moment since the first shattering. The siege begins. They didn't get a moment to breathe. The Bureau unleashed the 13th Facet Guardians, massive, lion-headed warriors draped in liquid silver, their voices like reversed thunder. These were not the usual dream hounds or memory thieves. These were Facet protectors. They defended the core truths the Prism could not afford to lose. The club dissolved around them. One blink and they were standing in the Facet's heart, an endless hall of mirrored crystal, each reflecting a different lifetime they'd lived. Kelmora, now Darren, realized this was the trap. The Guardians would force them to relive every false lifetime where they failed to free each other, hoping despair would make them give up. But Saria had learned something new in the long exile. The prism couldn't trap you if you stopped believing in its mirrors. She grabbed his hand. Don't look at them. Remember me as I am now. They closed their eyes and sang. The shatter point. Her voice wove with his beat. Cosmic bass and primordial melody, and together they struck the shatter point of the 13th Facet. It wasn't destruction, it was integration. Every lifetime they'd failed in bled into this one, each memory adding more force to the next note, the next heartbeat. It was like they'd been gathering fuel for centuries. The Guardians hesitated, not because they were defeated, but because they remembered. Even they had once been whole souls before the Architects bound them. One by one, the Guardians stepped aside. The Facet cracked, a spiderweb of light spreading through the prism's geometry. The Silence Bureau felt it instantly. They could repair a crack, but this wasn't just a crack. This was a wound in their design. The prism started leaking reality. People all over Earth began seeing flashes of other lifetimes, meeting strangers they recognized instantly, remembering skills they'd never learned. Some saw Kelmora and Saria in their dreams and joined the resistance. But the Bureau is never without counterplay. Before the lovers could strike again, the Bureau used the Echo Lock, a curse that forced one of them to forget only the other while remembering everything else. The lock hit Kelmora. He woke the next morning knowing every war, every secret, every song, except the face of the woman beside him in bed. And Saria, smiling through the grief, swore she would make him fall in love with her all over again. Because the Bureau still didn't understand. You can break a memory. You can't break a vow made outside of time. The Facet Guardians are an ancient archetype, They represent the parts of yourself that seem to oppose your growth, but are actually protecting you until you're ready. The shatter point in spiritual work is not about destroying the prison. It's about remembering enough to make the prison irrelevant. Oh, I can take you into part 3, where she does make him remember, but it triggers a final move by the architects that could destroy the prism and every soul in it if they fail. That's where the stakes go from love story to cosmic endgame. Do you want me to go there?
To our beloved collective, from the day one torchbearers to the newly awakened travellers, we see you, we honour you, and we love you. This isn't just a community, it's a soul constellation, a family woven across time. Thank you again for being here. Your presence means more than words can carry. Every little act of kindness you offer is a spark, shifting timelines, mending hearts, and quietly realigning the compass for many in ways only the unseen can measure. And to those yet to join us, we're holding the lantern high. There's room for you too. With eternal gratitude and cosmic mischief from the collective of Shaman Ahll. The journey is only beginning, and we ride together. All rise.